A day to remember for the rest of your lives.
There's a great promise for all of you.
The Pro Football Hall of Fame and Extreme Networks present the Heart of a Hall of Famer program. With nearly 100 Hall of Famers participating, we have reached 48 states around this country, sharing the message that football is more than a game and can teach Americans how to huddle up during a time when we need to be united.
It's time for America to take a real deep dive. Not at no one else, but at yourself individually. If you want to change America, don't brush your teeth with your head down. Look at who you are and be the example. Be the example.
An opportunity to meet and learn from one of the greatest football players of all time. But more than that, the chance to see that their Hall of Fame life wasn't given to them. Single-parent homes, drug-infested neighborhoods, and poverty.
I grew up in a neighborhood that was considered one of the worst in America, and the household I grew up in was one of the worst in that neighborhood. By the time I was 20 years old, I knew at least 30 friends or family members who had lost their lives. Football became like a second parent to me. It taught me the things that my father wasn't there to teach me, and that my mother, as a struggling, single-parent woman, just didn't know to teach me.
But they learn how to live a life of character before pursuing their football careers. Today, you will learn you can do the same that they once did. Making good decisions can lead to a prosperous life both on and off the field. Your game for life has already begun. It's your decision whether or not you want to be a successful student, son, daughter, brother, or sister.
Every one of you can have a Hall of Fame life, whether or not you play football. You can be as great as you want to be. The Hall of Fame is all about integrity, character, and excellence. You have the opportunity to represent yourself that way. You determine your character.
Welcome to a once-in-a-lifetime program, the Heart of a Hall of Famer.
OH! Welcome to the home of professional football, Canton, Ohio. And I happen to be one of the few people who have been enshrined in the Hall of Fame who was born and raised in the state of Ohio. We have the greatest hall of all the halls. And to be able to join these men on this stage in football heaven is the greatest day of my life. Four things you should know before you leave the Hall of Fame about Cris Carter. I won't apologize. I love God with all my heart. I love my family, and I love my friends who stuck with me. And just like these guys, I love football. I love this game. This game gave me identity. It gave me a sense of purpose. And for an African-American man, it's a great opportunity in America to be able to play football. And the number four thing that you should know about Cris Carter before you leave here is Buckeye, born and bred, now HOF'er, even after I'm dead. Thank you.
Whew. I don't know about everybody watching out there, but I want to run through a wall right now for sure. Welcome everybody to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. My name is Jake Ray, and I'm the Youth and Education Manager here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And it looks different behind me, I know. I'm not coming from my dining room. I'm here within the walls of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I'm happy to be back, happy to be at the most inspiring place on earth. And as you saw in our intro video today, our special guest is Gold Jacket Hall of Famer, wide receiver, Mr. Cris Carter. And before we get to him, just a little bit about us here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Our mission is to honor the heroes of the game, to preserve its history, to promote its values, and to celebrate excellence everywhere. And those values we promote are those of commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and excellence, all of which will come up during our conversation today with Mr. Cris Carter. So I'm excited to hear what all the questions we have today. You know, kids aren't in school. Most kids are doing all their schooling at home, and we're happy to provide the opportunity, to kind of change things up a little bit from your everyday learning, give you an opportunity to sit back in front of the computer, the TV, and learn a little bit from one of the greatest football players to ever step on the field. I got a few thank yous I'd like to send out. First off, I'd like to thank our great partners at Extreme Networks. They do a lot of great work for us here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, especially our youth and education department. I want to thank them for all the great work they do for us and all the great work they do for schools around the country. Secondly, I'd like to thank those students who are tuned in today, and not just the students, but the moms and dads and grandparents who at home becoming teachers, the teachers who are tuned in today, who sent this out to all their students. We want to thank you guys for allowing us to come into your quote unquote your classroom today, whether it's your kitchen, your dining room, your bedroom. We like to thank you for the opportunity to talk to everybody today. So I'm not going to spend a lot more time talking. We're going to turn things over to some opening remarks to our Hall of Fame wide receiver, Mr. Cris Carter. Cris, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it. It's a different time, but it's always nice to be able to talk about the Hall of Fame, talk about football, or just to try to encourage people in their daily walk of what they're trying to do, because a lot of the disciplines that we developed as youth and carried us through high school and college and into the pro ranks, I think are a lot of the disciplines that I try to apply on a daily basis as far as this COVID-19 and trying to stay safe and trying to make sure you send the right message to other people. We have been blessed. Being a member and being selected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, we cast a big shadow. And I just believe that wherever we are, if you're holding one of those gold jackets, you should be a leader in your community. People will see you. And if you're not obeying the law, and if you're not practicing social distancing, then other people will believe it's not as important. We're going through a time right now where we can change this thing. And we can do that by every day, realizing what's going on, respect the science, and govern yourself accordingly.
So the first question we like to start out with, and it is a crazy time right now, and we're missing out on things that we're normally seeing, sports, it being that big thing. And we know us at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, like I said, we believe in those values, and we believe those values not only make you a better athlete on the field, but more importantly, they make you a better person off the field. So how have those 5 values, commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and excellence, played a role in your life, both as a Hall of Fame wide receiver and, as a, Cris Carter, member of a community?
Right. I just think commitment, and I'll take that one from the start. And I started playing football when I was 8 years old, and I've never filled out a job application in my life. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying that football made such an impression on me at 8 years old that I played, of course, all the way through high school, college, 16 years in the league, and either have worked with the league in some capacity, broadcasting ever since I retired in 2002. So for me, the commitment to the game, learning about the game, commitment to understanding that the rule changes, commitment that trying to grow. So I think right from the beginning, my commitment to football and football's commitment to me has had a lasting impression. And I think integrity, number 2, is you think about sports integrity. People typically talk about integrity as far as character, all those things. It's impossible to have bad character off the field and have great sports integrity, because typically you're working with teammates and they have to be able to depend on you. And that's not only your assignment, that means showing up every day with the right type of attitude, taking care of yourself. So when there's time to do your job, they can depend on you. So I talk about sports integrity all the time. So there are a few of the values that I see, in myself that every day they play a role. And you can't get to the Hall of Fame without
a commitment to excellence. And people always wonder, well, I'm not going to be a Hall of Famer. But commitment to excellence is I'm trying to get better at what I'm doing. If that's a parent, if that's a son, if that's a daughter, I'm trying to get better at that every single day. And I'm not satisfied by yesterday's results. So I think that's the excellent part. And people, get that mixed up. You can have excellence in your life, regardless of what your skill level is or what your talent level is. There's excellence available for you, not just the Gold Jackets.
Now, those values play an important role, especially where we're at today in our society and dealing with COVID-19, the coronavirus. These values are, kind of forefront in that fight. And we have to, or those frontline workers are the ones who are doing that. You've been involved with a project recently called Project Isaiah. Can you kind of give everybody who's tuning in today an overview on what Project Isaiah is and how it benefits people across the country?
Well, the thing about it, we've partnered with Gate Gourmet, and they do a great job of feeding people. Typically, you're familiar with their product because you get it on airplanes. But there's a lot of people that have never, ever needed meals or needed any type of assistance. So Gate Gourmet is doing a great job of putting together nutritious meals in 11 cities that have at least one NFL team. So when it was presented to me through the leadership of Dave Baker, I thought it was something I can get behind, because if you notice in these 11 cities that we have Project Isaiah in, and if you want to be able to help us out, any donation, anything would help. Not only, it's hard to be a volunteer right now, given COVID-19, but the smallest donation, $20, $100 will feed 20 families or 20 people. So every person can make a contribution to try to help out. But if you look at these 11 cities, that's where we get most of our NFL kids from. And if you look at COVID-19, the way it's attacking people above the age of 55, if you look at the Gold Jackets, so not only are these cities the target for NFL and where we get our talent from, that's enough for me to support it. But this COVID-19 is serious, especially when you look at the demographics, the age, and there's a lot of families, Gold Jacket families, that have been affected by this. That's why I put my name behind it. The Hall of Fame has put their name behind it to try to generate some attention to a worthy cause to people that, man, if you look at families that have been working hard for 30 years trying to get out of poverty, and then now COVID-19 and drags them back in. So this is something that people didn't have control over. So I thought it was worth it, and looking forward to seeing how we can help them moving forward into the future.
Now, at a time like this, like I mentioned, we're trying to find that new normal. And it's not just, it's a new normal for me. It's a new normal for my parents, my grandparents. It's a new normal for you and all your family. How do you see sports, once we're back and sports are rolling again? How do you see sports playing a role in, kind of leading to that new normal for everybody?
Well, the NFL has been very, very fortunate as far as the timing. There was news about COVID-19 in January and February, so we really got through our season. And I think Roger Goodell and the operations department they're doing a good job as far as respecting it. But you have to realize they've been, of all the sports teams, they've been hit with as far as the sweetest calendar. So there's not a lot of activities that they've been able to miss out on. So I think the draft, and I must say forcing the draft, but doing it safely. We're going to have the draft. It's something we've been used to for a long, long time, but it's going to be the ability to cheer a lot of people up. I didn't think that they were being arrogant about it. The social distancing and what they went through as far as Roger being in his home and all these great athletes being with their families and everything. I thought it was phenomenal. I do enjoy the draft, and I was skeptical if they could pull it off, but it was amazing. I was very happy to see those young kids come into the NFL brotherhood, into that fraternity. So I think that as we go onto the field, I know that they're looking at everything from a cutting edge standpoint to keep everyone safe, their employees first and foremost, then the players, and then the fans. So I'm hoping that we're able to see a version of the NFL that we've seen before. I'm hoping that we're able to have fans in the stands, but it's more important to be safe than to have a game with full of fans and everything that we spring some type of outbreak. So I think the NFL will be leaders. I think Roger Goodell has done a good job. We've been fortunate as far as the calendar, but let's see what happens once we get into the summer, because facilities are starting to open. My daughter actually works for the Vikings and helps run their foundation and everything. And she's been keeping me abreast of what their schedule is. They're starting calling people back to work next week after Memorial Day holiday. So over the next few weeks, I think it will be an opportunity for the NFL to show some great leadership to this country, because through this, there's a lot of mixed messages out there. But I hope the league continues in the leadership role in society that they have taken.
You mentioned, the operations team at the league office and how much great work they do, especially now when this, unprecedented times, and they have to come up with a new plan. I read somewhere that you've actually done some work with the NFL operations department, and, what kind of pulled you into that work, and what are some of the things you've done within that realm?
Well, I've been good friends and had a good association with the league throughout my playing days and then since retirement. And transitioning from full-time television, I thought it was a good transition to me, so I accepted a position with them. And it's doing a variety of things. I'll still be in the storytelling business, so I'll still do some things with NFL Network and NFL Films, doing feature stories, getting out, introducing fans to their favorite players, and doing some things like that. But ambassador to the game globally, I'll be doing some things internationally. And then also, just like the Hall of Fame, people think the Hall of Fame's about Canton. No, it's not. It's about football around the globe. So Canton's also not about the past, just the Gold Jackets. It's about the past, it's about the present, and it's about the future. So I'll do some ambassador things for the NFL, being a voice of the past to the current players. And then also we have a college program where we go out and talk to the top 20 programs, the Clemsons, the Ohio States, the Florida States, and give them an introduction into the NFL, what they should get themselves ready for. So a variety of topics, a variety of roles, but very, very happy to be working hand in hand with Troy Vincent, who's Senior Vice President of Operations, and Tracy Perlman. I work for Tracy. Troy, he thinks he's my boss and everything, but Tracy Perlman, working with her and the NFL Legends and the programs we do there. Podcasts, NFL Legends podcast. I'll be doing some podcasts there. So a variety of things.
You mentioned, that transition from, being a player to that time you spent in the media and all the things you're going to be doing today. Well, was that always a goal you had when your career was over, or was that something that was presented to you after you retired and you said, hey, let's give it a shot?
No, it really was a goal. I majored in communications at Ohio State. Ohio State has a great communications program for young people out there. If you want to be a broadcaster, you want to learn about communications, we know about their business school, the school of business, but they also have a great communication school. So that's why not only myself, but if you look at the other Buckeyes that have transitioned into broadcasting, Chris Spillman, Robert Smith, Clark Kellogg, like all these guys through the years, that have said, wow, I love it. Robbie Carpenter, he's into it now. The linebacker, he's into it. Laurinaitis, he's into broadcasting now. So we have a great collection of guys that have been successful on the field, but have transitioned into a successful broadcasting career.
I'm glad you bring up, Ohio State. It's something we definitely want to, personally, I like to touch on a little bit, being a fan my entire life. But not so much, your time at Ohio State, but more about the program and things that the staff and the coaching staff and all the administration are doing, behind the scenes. But before we dive into that, you grew up in Ohio, Central Ohio, Ohio State territory. What did it mean to you to, to put on the scarlet and gray and call yourself a Buckeye?
Well, it's Urban Meyer stole some of my material. Wouldn't be the first material of mine he's ever clipped from me, took credit for it. But we talk about young people being recruited, and I was very, very fortunate. I was a high school All-American. So I got recruited by every football program. And I really, as a young person, I think it's just that wild. I wanted to go to Los Angeles and play for USC. So USC, Notre Dame, Michigan, and University of Pittsburgh, those were my choices besides Ohio State. So I had really good football programs. But when it came down to long term, what if you're not good at football? Where would you rather live? So for me, I just thought being from Ohio, the cachet of playing for the Buckeyes and staying there, living in Ohio, it just meant more than going up north, going to South Bend, or even going to Los Angeles. So I think the University of Pittsburgh, because it's very, very similar to Ohio, right down 70, I think they were probably the biggest threat to the Buckeyes, but not a 4-year decision, young people. It's a 40-year decision. And as you can see, I left Ohio State in 87. So, we're slowly approaching those 40 years being gone there. And when I see the band and I see the kids run out on the field, I feel just like I did when I was 17 and I went to my first Buckeye game. So it does mean a lot, being from OHIO and playing football there.
You mentioned like the impact the school had on you, not only the football, but your academic career as well. What is it about the organization or the feeling you get when you're Columbus that keeps guys who went to Ohio State around the Columbus area?
Well, if you look at all the Big Ten schools, and especially the original Big Ten schools, they do a great job as far as their alumni base. They do a really good job as far as the education. And people just take a lot of pride in saying that they go to a Big Ten school. Now, Ohio State's a little unique because it's probably the biggest city surrounding those schools. So, Ann Arbor is not Columbus, Ohio. Even Penn State, they're one of the original Big Ten schools, but State Penn is not Columbus, Ohio. So, so if you look at those little pockets, Madison, no, I don't think so. Evanston, where Northwestern is, all those little places, none of them have, I would say, the culture, the diversity, restaurants, hotels, main events, and other things. So I think that Columbus is a huge part. And then when you get there and see that people are fanatical about the Buckeyes and their players and the generation after generation after generation, I think that right there, it has an effect on you.
Why do you, or how do you feel, or why do you think, the organization and the school, the team specifically, keeps pumping out all of these great talents? You can go back and, just within the 5 years and seeing the number of draft picks that, the Buckeyes have had, especially in the first round. What is it about that culture that helps produce such great athletes?
Well, it takes a number of things. It takes standards. Like, you have to realize that you're stepping into one of the greatest programs in college football history. And they do a good job from the time you step there, realizing this is not like any other place. And you're not going to treat it like any other place. You're not going to act like it's like any other place. And now there's a lot of places that think they're special. And then there becomes the combination of, you need great coaching, you need great recruiting, and you need a great fan base. And you can't overlap. It can't be, something, man, it's all fans. Something, it's all athletes. Something, it's all coaching. No, it is the combination. And if you see the programs that have held that standard for the highest, it has a lot to do with what was their recruiting, what was their coaching. If you look at Nick Saban, I think he's been in Alabama 13 years now. Look where they were when he came in. Alabama is still Alabama, still the tradition, still the great facility, still the standards. But then they got a coach that could coach on that level. It's been the same way at Ohio State, and we've just been fortunate in our hiring process that we didn't make a mistake. We didn't take a dip. When we went from Earl to Coach Cooper, and people might not like Coop because he didn't beat Michigan, and that is one of the prereqs that you must have as a Buckeye coach, but he recruited and he won on a high level. So he kept that standard going. And if you look at after that, look at the coaches. Trussell did things at a high level, and then we had Urban come in and he transitioned to Coach Day, and we're off and still rolling as if we didn't miss a beat, because all those things, athletically, the standards, the athletic director sets, the president of the university that they set, our fans will not settle for a product that is not up to the 5-star product that they're used to seeing on the field, and the players around the country, what they want. Ohio State is offering that. So I think there's a push-pull that Ohio State is doing it, that only a handful of colleges can say that they're doing it at that level, and that's the Clemsons, and that is the Oklahomas, that is the Alabamas, and Ohio State. Those teams right there are a class above the rest in college football, and we just have been doing it for over 100 years, and I'm fortunate to be a part of that.
Now, you mentioned that rivalry game. About a month and a half ago, we had Steve Hutchinson, who's a member of the class of 2020, that Centennial class, who's going to be coming in here, hopefully this August. And, we asked him, for his side of the rivalry, what it meant to him. So the same thing, what is it about that game that makes it, some say the greatest rivalry in all of sports?
Well, if you're into your school, you should be into who your school doesn't like. And it's no different than when you're in high school. Man, you got Central versus Parkside, or the South Side, the people on the other side of the tracks, or whatever it is. You go, from Middletown, you go to Dayton, Ohio, you go down to Cincinnati, you play against Moeller. You know the people that you must beat to really be an elite team, or elite school, an elite university, elite college. So for us, it's always been Michigan. We've never gotten that mixed up. No one even comes in a close second. So it's a priority in what we try to do. I think our football team is put together year in and year out to try to defeat that team up there. So it is very, very important. And I think it is our measuring stick to what we want to do, who we want to be, and who we always want to be. So yes, I'm in the very, very very, very predictable line of Buckeyes that I don't dislike Michigan. I just enjoy beating them. So it's people, sometimes they get this all mixed up and everything. Like, they're our rival. So I like to do well against my rival. It's like all these other teams are pop quizzes and just little exams. They are not finals. And Michigan is our test of where our program is. And can we keep the standards that's been there for over 100 years? Definitely
a big game for sure that the entire country, doesn't matter if you're a fan or not, definitely tunes in for. So, your Ohio State career, you transitioned into your NFL career, and we'll kind of talk about that here in a second. But I want to go now, being a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, it's not easy. There's so much that goes into being a member of the Hall of Fame. And, when you're enshrined, you get those 3 iconic pieces. You get that bronze bust that goes on display here in Canton, Ohio. You get that Haggard gold jacket like you talked about earlier, and you get that K Jewelers Ring of Excellence. What we wanted to do today is we actually wanted to take our audience, into our Hall of Fame gallery. The Hall of Fame Museum isn't open right now, so we've got, unprecedented access in the museum. We're the only ones here. So right now I've got the Director of Youth and Education, Jerry Shockey, who's actually out in the Hall of Fame gallery right now in front of something that might look a little familiar to you. So Jerry, are you there?
Yes, I am, Jake, and I want to say welcome to each and every one of our Facebook fans tuning in here today to talk and hear from Gold Jacket Cris Carter. What I want to give you guys an understanding is we're sitting here surrounded by the greatest football players of all time, to give you an understanding of exactly how big of an honor it is to be enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Now think about this just for a second. Since the game has started being played at all levels, there have been about 300 million that have played the game at all levels. On the college level, there have been about 5 million that have played. On the professional level, there have been about 30,000 people that have been paid to play, coach, officiate, and administrate the game of football. And get this, there are only 346 members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. One of those is this guy right here that you guys are listening to talk today for this Hall of Famer series, Cris Carter. Cris Carter, 4th-round pick of the Philadelphia Eagles in the 1987 supplemental draft, started his pro career on a high note as his first NFL catch came on a 22-yard touchdown play in a game against St. Louis Cardinals. Carter's career started slowly as he showed occasional flashes of brilliance during his 3 seasons with the Eagles, but consistent success did not begin until after he joined the Minnesota Vikings in 1990. Over the next 12 seasons in Minnesota, Carter developed into one of the game's most prolific pass receivers. Carter set a then NFL record in 1994 for reception of the season when he hauled in 122 passes for 1,256 yards and scored 7 touchdowns. His finest season came 1 year later when in 1995 he registered his second straight 122 catch season and amassed a career high 1,371 yards and 17 touchdowns. His 2-year total of 244 catches was the most in NFL history. Known for his durability, Carter played full 16-game seasons in 13 of his 16 years in the NFL. He finished his 234-game career as the NFL's second all-time leading receiver with 1,101 receptions for 13,899 yards. A member of the NFL's all-decade team in the 1990s, Carter had 10 or more touchdowns in a season 6 times and led the NFL in receiving touchdowns 3 times. He recorded 70 more catches in a season 10 times and had 100-yard receiving games 42 times during his career. As you can tell, Cris Carter had a career well deserving of a bust here in Canton, Ohio. Jake, back to you, buddy.
Thanks, Jerry. Cris, I want to dive into some of our Facebook questions now because they do kind of relate to, your career in the NFL. And the first one here is from Luke and Jake, who are coming to us from Lind, Minnesota. And I wanted to know, what did you enjoy most about being a Minnesota Viking?
Well, I think that they're such good people. And I had a little checkered past coming from Philadelphia. And they just really welcomed me in and were very, very friendly. And I was not a household name. I mean, I think they had 7 or 8 Pro Bowlers at the time when I joined the team. And they really took me in. So I would say that they were there from the beginning and believing in me and were very, very consistent. But, fan bases are different as you go throughout the country. And a lot of times they make up, the people of that culture. And the people of Minnesota, they say Minnesota nice. It is not a made-up phrase. The people are some of the nicest people in the world. And that's the way they were to me. And I just was able to rebuild my life there, rebuild my character there. So I'm always kind of fond to the people of Minnesota. And most of those people are huge Vikings fans.
Got another question here. This is from Derek, who's a student at HOF'er Elementary in Coon Rapids, Minnesota. He wants to know, do you actually hit each other as hard as it looks on TV?
It's harder than that. Yeah, it's actually harder than that. One of the first times I went to an NFL game after I retired, I was on the sidelines. And you go through an adjustment. You've been playing football for so long. And for me, it was almost 30 years, to be exact. You still, I couldn't believe how fast people were moving. It wasn't that the game was different. It was, I didn't believe that I used to do that. And when you see people and they get hit and the way they just bounce up and you're like, okay, that's going to be sore for a few days. And you start to remember that. So it's always amazing the violent nature for which, to me, I'm astonished that I was able to play and be able to stay so healthy for so long.
You go throughout your career and, you transition from that young, kind of raw, talented wide receiver to, eventually a Hall of Fame career when it ended. When you came into the league, whether it was with Philadelphia or Minnesota, did you have anybody that mentored you? And then when you got to your end of your career, was there anybody that you kind of took under your wing?
Well, I just think, through coming into the league, it's such a brotherhood. And you were talking about the draft earlier. We understand, like, these kids don't know the game. They need to be taught the game. And you typically have people in your group, in your position group. So for me, I had some really good veterans in Kenny Jackson. He was a first-round draft pick out of Penn State in Philadelphia. And a guy by the name of Mike Quick. He was a first-round draft pick out of NC State. He had made the Pro Bowl 5 of his first 7 years. in the league. And they were mentored by a guy going in this summer in Harold Carmichael. So they had a nice little lineage as far as taking care of the players. And I think fans really miss or don't understand that brotherhood and the responsibility of older veteran players to these guys that are drafted. So I had that there in Philadelphia. When I went to Minnesota, we had Steve Jordan, who was a tight end, was a great mentor to all positions, a great example, great man, great character. He's the dad of Cameron Jordan, who plays for New Orleans Saints and a star down there. He's one of my favorite NFL players. And we had Anthony Carter and Hassan Jones. So I had a lot of good veterans, around me that gave me, in those spots in Philadelphia starting off and then there in Minnesota. So for me, it was natural, once we had drafted someone like Jake Reed, that we would try to help him out and mentor him. Then we got Matthew Hatchett, Kadre Ishmael. We helped them out along the way. And they became good NFL receivers before we drafted Moss in 1998. So I think that, along the way, it's part of the brotherhood, to accept coaching, accept that mentorship from other players, and then mentor other players.
You've mentioned the word brotherhood a lot, and I truly think football does teach that so much, is that, these become your best friends, lifetime best friends. So, mentoring a guy like Randy Moss, and we use just that as an example. Have you stayed close with him, after your career was over, into the, the high time of his career until now, you both have gold jackets?
Yes, Randy and I have been in contact with each other. We have very, very similar interests in what we're doing. He's got a son also coming into the league. So I think with a number of guys, I've kept relationship with not only my teammates, but other guys throughout the league who are part of that brotherhood. So we keep lifelong, lasting relationships after our playing days.
So, in doing some research throughout your career, I got a list of some things here I'd like to read off. So you were inducted to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2013. You were a member of the NFL 1990s All-Decade Team. You're in the Vikings Ring of Honor. You were a Walter Payton Man of the Year Award winner. Your number 80 is retired by the Vikings. You've won the Bart Starr Award. You're on Ohio State's football's All-Century Team and in Ohio State's Varsity O Hall of Fame. Out of all these awards and honors, what do those mean, to Cris Carter, the individual?
Well, I think that my high school a couple of days ago sent me a picture of the new jerseys that they have. And that's my high school. That's one of my high school pictures. That's not like a picture day, because I would have taken off the neck row and had my number. I think I had like 30-something, number 30-something on. A practice jersey, but those days are always fond memories. But when you go back to it, you talked about the values and you said excellence. And when I was in high school, I had some great players that had come before me, and I wanted to be one of the greatest players that ever gone to my high school. And we had some great players: Jerry Lucas, my brother Butch, Todd Bell, and a number of other guys that had gone on to tremendous success in NBA, NFL. So that excellence was there. When you go to Ohio State from the first day, the coach recruited me, and a lot of the teams that recruited against me, being Michigan and Notre Dame, they had said that Ohio State never had an All-American wide receiver when I was getting recruited. I was like, okay, so I'm going to be the first All-American wide receiver there. So I think that value as far as excellence, they continue. And then, of course, the pinnacle of that is the Hall of Fame. So for me, I like to look at it as if, man, how many Hall of Famers have won the Bart Starr? How many Hall of Famers are on an all-decade team? Most of them, those are the requirements. Those are like, okay, well, you need a bachelor's degree in this. Like, those are the requirements to being in that room that we were in just a few minutes ago. I got chills when he started talking, because it is one of the greatest rooms ever constructed, and the power to it And to me, the ultimate humility, not even really understanding, comprehending how I would end up being, in that room. So when you make that list and you start doing things like that, you bring back to me some of the real values, that we, try to live by on a daily basis. And it just didn't start today. It started back in Middletown, Ohio, and we took those on to any place that we went, and that being Columbus, that being Philadelphia, on to Minnesota and other communities that we've been a part of. So good question. Statement, whatever.
So, you have all these awards and honors, and, you finally get to put that gold jacket on. From your time that you got to slip that gold jacket on till today, is there an event, a moment, a time in your life that stands out to you as like, you know what, I am a Hall of Famer, and, I made it? Is there something that stands out to you above the others, kind of saying like, man, I'm in the Hall of Fame?
I'll go to, the night of enshrinement, when you have your party, we did something, and, I grew up in the 80s, and Soul Train music. Soul Train was really popular, and they used to have a Soul Train music line, and people used to dance and do all these different dances, but everyone kind of had their own style. And to me, at my party, I wanted everyone to be able to wear the gold jacket. So we formed a line like the Soul Train line, and I was there at the beginning of the line. I had the jacket, and then I would put the jacket, the enshrinement, I would enshrine the people in the Hall of Fame and say, you're in the Hall of Fame. And then they would dance down, and just to see everyone, women, kids, my nieces, my nephews, my brothers, my sisters, like people who I know my whole life who are stiff, how they came alive, and people who are not fun were having fun with the gold jacket, but just the overall respect of what people have for the jacket worldwide, and just seeing some of my really close people who've been knowing me forever, just seeing what the gold jacket meant to them.
You mentioned that moment of saying you're in the Hall of Fame. Part of your enshrinement speech were the pick out people, like your high school football coach. I know from my family, especially when you talked about your mother and saying, Mom, sit down, you're in the Hall of Fame. Why was that an important part for you, and how did those people play an important role in making, who Cris Carter is?
Well, I think when you're going through the whole, it's so many things from the time they call your name. It's, I don't care how much confidence you have in yourself. It's overwhelming. It's overwhelming to believe that you're in this class, that you're deserving of it. So for me, I really wanted to reverse it, and to allow everyone that was along the journey that they would feel it. And they would feel that if they didn't do their part, I wouldn't have made it. And I wanted every person to realize that life is about a bunch of fragments that turns into something beautiful. But if you're not responsible for that fragment, that section that you have, and that's what I wanted people to know, that my high school coach, he was just as important as Denny Green or Warren Moon. And my high school buddies, that when I was 10, 11, and 12, man, we thought we were special. We thought we had a special group, and they made me feel special. So all that to me, because everyone was telling me, Cris, you're special. Cris, you're great. Cris, you're this. Cris, you're that. I thought it was important that we might be able to serve those and let them know, man, that I wouldn't have done this. I wouldn't have made this. I wouldn't be here without you. And that's what I tried to accomplish, in that message.
I think that's a great theme that we see throughout a lot of our Heart of a Hall of Famers. They just didn't, as David Baker says, they don't just roll out of bed great. They got to put the time in. They got the sacrifice, to get that gold jacket. And it takes way more than just them. It takes family members and coaches. So it is truly special to see, that enshrinement moment. and everybody kind of together as one big group to celebrate, reaching that ultimate level of a football player. We get into you being a Hall of Famer, and one thing we always like to ask is when you get that, now it's that knock on the door. For you, it's that phone call you got to let you're in the Hall of Fame. And you weren't a first ballot. You had to wait your time before you got that call to let you know that, hey, you are a Hall of Famer. So what is that? We did have a question very similar to this, on Facebook too. What was it like to wait, those extra couple years to get the that call letting you're a Gold Jacket? And, what was the feeling like to, was there a weight off your shoulders, or what did it feel like to finally know that you're going in the Hall of Fame?
Well, I can say that a lot of people, because there was a lot of conversation, I was involved in a lot of conversations, and to say I was disappointed to not go in initially would be an understatement. So I would say all that went away. And I would now say that I've been in there 7 years. I think that I appreciate it more because of the wait. I also understand guys year in and year out. You mentioned Steve Hutchinson, he had to wait. Others who have had to wait, because there's a lot of great players. If you get to that final 20 list, man, you were on the list with probably the toughest list you're going to ever be on in your life, and trying to get out of that 20 into that 7, potentially, 5 or 6, it's hard. It's gut-wrenching, and only the Hall of Famers understand that. So it's tough. It's a tough process. I enjoy every day. I still, feel as if I should have went in first ballot. When you have those types of numbers, anyone else come up with those type of numbers is going to go in first ballot. And, but, I do understand that the Hall of Fame has gone through a number of changes, and we had a backlog of guys waiting. And I looked up the guys who were not first ballot Hall of Famers, and I was humbled to be like, wow, no, you're not better than that guy. No, you're not better than that guy. No, you're not better than that guy. So I joined another great list. But as Lynn Swann says it, once you get in, man, there are no first or second team. We're all on the same team, and we all appreciate each other. So that journey right there, it makes me appreciate it even more. And, I always want to go to Canton. I always want to represent the Hall and represent it the right way.
When you come to Canton, whether it's the year you're enshrined or any other year after that, you get to see everybody again. You get to see the boys, see the team again. When you first got enshrined, was there a Hall of Famer you specifically wanted to, go have a face-to-face conversation with? And if so, who was that Hall of Famer?
I wouldn't say, because I played for so long, and I've been able to meet so many Hall of Famers and have conversations with Hall of Famers. I would say that who would you be surprised that you've developed strong relationships with after being in the Hall? And I would say that I love Mean Joe Green. And I was Pittsburgh and Mel Blount. I have so many conversations with him, with those two, that I didn't see it coming. But once you get in, you just start vibing with certain guys. And there's guys you'll be shocked that have been watching your whole career and know everything, about you. I think Lem Barney, his overall style, his overall charisma, him loving God for as long as he has, how he comes with a smile on his face and love in his heart. Paul Warfield, a classy guy. Lynn Swann, oh man, he was a ballerina. He was the guy that I looked up into and tried to emulate his play more than anyone else. Jim Kelly, the heart of a Hall, man. That dude's got a heart on him. Dan Marino, we've been friends for a long, long time. So I just think that a great question is, who are you surprised that you're close to? Because, Mike Irvin and myself are close, Sal, Aeneas, Normal, Shannon, all of, we're close. We're close. But some of these older guys, man, are really phenomenal men.
I got just a couple more minutes here and a few more questions I'd like to get to. I'd like to jump to today's game. Today's game is such a passing-friendly league where wide receivers like yourself would have excelled in today's game. So is there a player you see today that you kind of see your same playing style? Or, who do you think is in that top tier of wide receivers in today's NFL?
Well, if you look at the top wide receivers, I'll go with, for one, Julio Jones is phenomenal wide receiver. Antonio Brown didn't play last year. I would still have him in that top 5 class. Hope that he gets back out there playing this season because the fans, really miss him. DeAndre Hopkins leaving Houston, now going to Arizona with Larry Fitzgerald, who's one of my favorite receivers all time. But, the big receiver for Tampa Bay, Evans, he is a phenomenal. He's underrated, as a wide receiver. Cortland Sutherland of Denver, he's underrated as a wide receiver. So, but that top tier, those guys, and Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas is in the top 4 down there in New Orleans. Michael Thomas Jr., Buckeye, breaking records, doing a phenomenal job. Him, Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins. Am I forgetting someone? Before people jump on me, because I wasn't prepared for a list, but am I forgetting someone?
Now I'll admit this, and please don't hate me, but I am a Packers fan. So I have to throw Devontae Adams on the list.
Devontae Adams is right there, top 10.
Yes.
Like we'll say he's in the second 5. No, really? No, I had the top 5. I didn't miss nothing, cheesehead. I didn't miss.
No, I was scared to admit that. You had such a great career with the Vikings, and but again, that rivalry is just another one.
Just one time on TV, and an impromptu guy was like, "Chris, give me your top receiver." And I was going through them, and at the end he was like, "Well, Calvin Johnson," and then I was just trying to be funny and said, "Oh, he's just great in like the video game." And then oh man, the internet exploded on me. They just ate me up whole, and then people reporting to Calvin Johnson. Chris Carter didn't even have you in the top 10 in the NFL. And I was like, I made a mistake. Of course he's in the top 5.
Yeah, no, I think, today's game, like we said, is such a passing-friendly league that the guys like, your Mike Evans, or, you can even throw Chris Godwin, who's now got Tom Brady throwing to him, who's going to, the landscape of the NFL is ever-changing, with free agency and guys jumping from team to team. It's definitely going to be an exciting season. We hope we get to see, something on the field. So is there something this season that you're looking forward to? Are you looking forward to, to see if Tom can continue that success in Tampa, or Phil in Indianapolis? Or can Drew Brees, get over that hump and make it to the big game? Is there something this season that stands out to you as a big story that you're looking forward to?
Well, for one, I'm going to tell you, as a football fan, and what fans should watch out for, don't be naive to it. Regardless of how much talent you have, when you're talking about Hall of Famers, you're talking about the best of the best. But in the NFL, you cannot overcome bad coaching. I don't care how talented you are. So the younger coaching staffs that haven't been through training camp. So to me, the veteran coaches, being Belichick, Andy Reid, and them, they have a huge advantage. Being through a number of different decades in the league, I believe in this abbreviated NFL season, as far as practice and off season, that they will have a distinct advantage. Veteran quarterbacks will have a distinct advantage. So for me, watching the guys that might be in their last year or 2 years, being Drew Brees and Tom Brady, we are being blessed. Phillip Rivers leaving LA and going to Indianapolis, that I believe will be a much improved football team. So we're seeing these veteran quarterbacks playing in unique situations where they're 40 plus and playing at an elite level because of the rule changes and because of the way that they take care of their body. The other thing is, we don't know if we're going to be able to watch games live and in person. So for me, being a Hall of Famer, I have one of those Hall of Fame passes that I can go to any game with 3 of my friends on the sideline and then sitting in some very, very good seats except the Super Bowl. I'm trying to go to as many games as I can this year. I want to be live for as many games as I can, because I'm not going to take the NFL for granted. I hope we have full fans in the seat. I hope we can, but more importantly, I hope that we can really stop this thing from spreading and that people's lives aren't cut short. So I want to go to NFL games, but I do want to be safe. But those are some of the other things that I'm looking forward to. And I believe that Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are getting ready to go on a run where they could win maybe 2 of the next 3 or 4 championships in Kansas City.
Well, if it happens, you heard it here first, right? Before we wrap up, we got one last question. And like we were talking before, that, a lot of great points have come up today about the values of the game and what football means and how it made, you, Cris Carter, the Hall of Fame wide receiver, but also Cris Carter, the brother, the friend, the father. Out of everything we talked about today, what would be one piece of advice you want everybody who tuned in today to take away?
Most successful people have some type of system or some type of regimen. Most people that I know that are successful, and the most successful ones of them, do things on a regular basis. They start their day a certain way, and they have a certain mindset as they go through their day. They continue to try to learn from an educational standpoint, so they keep trying to improve in that area. So for me, being a Hall of Famer, those are things that I've tried at every level of my life, and I continue to try to do today. This is the least amount of information I want to know the rest of my life, and I want to have an impact on people in a positive way. So regardless of where you are, I hope you're being a leader. Hall of Famer, go Jackets. I know you're out there being leaders, and I hope everyone is staying safe. I'd like to thank the first responders, all those people out there risking their life from a day-to-day standpoint so that we can go about having the life that we have in America, and God bless America.
I can't think of a better way to end it. And before we send you off, I would do want to make, just a couple quick announcements. We've had a lot of great content on our social media channel. So if you're watching right now and you aren't following the Pro Football Hall of Fame on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, make sure you go and follow that here as soon as we're done. We got a lot of great content coming out, a lot of behind-the-scenes look at artifacts coming in from guys like Edgerrin James, Donnie Shell, who are going to be in our new class of 2020. Also, if you're a podcast listener, I know podcasts are huge right now, especially with everybody being at home. Make sure you subscribe to the Pro Football Hall of Fame's podcast, The Mission, hosted by my great friend, my coworker, Mr. Jameer Howerton, who interviews Gold Jackets, members of the media. He did a program recently with, Ray Farmer to talk about, the Rooney Rule in the NFL. So make sure you tune in and get your most up-to-date news, from us here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And lastly, we have some educational programming that is also going to be here on Facebook. If you tune in tomorrow, Jerry Shockey, who you saw already here on the program, is going to be talking about the Pro Football Hall of Fame's mission, vision, and values, and really go in depth and talk about what those mean to everybody and how they can learn from the game of football. So make sure you tune in to all of those. Cris, just want to thank you so much for tuning in today and participating in our Heart of a Hall of Famer program powered by Extreme Networks. I want to thank you personally, myself, from our department, Jerry and Nathan, all the way up to President and CEO, Mr. David Baker. I like to say the game of football wouldn't be like it is today without our Gold Jackets influence. So thank you so much for everything you've done for the game of football and everything you continue to do for us here at the Hall of Fame. We are eternally grateful for you and you being out there, especially with something great like Project Isaiah, representing the Hall of Fame, having that Hall of Fame logo on. So we greatly appreciate it, and we thank you so much for everything that you do.
All right. Thanks for having me.
All right, everybody. I'd like to thank you for tuning into our last installment for this school year of the Pro Football Hall of Fame's Heart of a Hall of Famer program, powered by Extreme Networks, right here on Facebook Live. Make sure you tune in, see all of our great content, and we'll be back to you next school year with our great program. So again, Mr. Carter, thank you. Everybody who tuned in, thank you very much. And we all hope to see you one day here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. We'll see you, everybody.